So the drivers are now heading out onto the starting grids, obviously out of the holding area, and they'll go for their 2 laps of rolling formation. Kimber and Turney from Van Splinteren and Olsen, then Hansheim and Pico, Hijawi and Kuhlen, then Valentino Fritsch and Calioni, Hans Morin and Romain Leroux from Horainen and Beat, Liedmar and Danny Curl, Bunshu and Lena Buehler, then it is Robin Knudsen and Risa Shijima, and then we have De Grand, Henrad, Masaru, Ganem, Moya, Barlow, Satumnu, Villa Gomez, Brandon, Hunt, Golofratona and Ruvers. So the 32 drivers are going around the circuit in formation. Obviously they will do the first initial out lap and then they do their rolling formation lap as well. And by the time they've gone through turn 3, the left-hander just after the first initial very tight hairpin, the drivers will then start to grid up in formation. But it's going to be an interesting battle this. Mark Kimber versus Joe Turney very much is going to be the initial headline of this fight. But there's several drivers who have put on a very good show in the early stages of the day. You've only got to look at the likes of Valentino Fritsch and Hans Morin, who were very strong in their individual performances in their first races. Robin Knudsen did a good job to work his way through the field in his first heat as well. And then you've also got to look at the likes of Danny Curl, Lena Buehler, Harry Barlow. They were all really good at working their way through the field as well with some good overtaking moves. So I can sense there's a good few drivers in the mix here who will be particularly strong. But if you want to, if I have to put my money on an outside bet from someone lower down, I'm going to put my money on Valentino Fritsch, 9th position on the grid. He's looking particularly confident here, and obviously after fighting his way through to the top 5 in the first heat, that's got the ball rolling quite nicely. And the local man in the Birolart KSW team, he looks pretty confident here. He seems to really be gelling with the Wackersdorf circuit, and the chassis is obviously tuned the way he likes it. So he could be one to keep an eye on. But at the front it's Kimber and Turney. Then Van Splinteren, Olsen, Hansheim, Pico, Hijawi, Kuhlen, Fritsch, Calioni. We're getting ready for the off as the drivers' revs rise and the lights are out. It's a good start and we're away. And it's a terrible start from the even side of the grid. Out in front, Kimber's going to get the getaway, and round the outside, Olsen's going to get squeezed by Van Splinteren. So that's going to drop Olsen down into potentially 5th position, although she is going to run round the outside to stop. I think that's Hijawi rather than Valentino Fritsch trying to come through. Forces his way to the inside, and Matilda Olsen is not budging as they go through turn 4. But it's Kimber and Joe Turney out in front straight away as they battle away for the victory. Van Splinteren in 3rd, 4th position. That is the 330 that has come forward. So up into 4th place has come Javier Hansheim. But now Joe Turney has got into the lead on Mark Kimber on this first lap, halfway round the tour. And now we've got a bit of a fisticuffs going on further back as 3 or 4 carts are getting into the squabbles, and somebody's gone wide on the back straight. It's going to cause all sorts of carnage as the drivers are trying to chop across the nose of each other to keep their initial positions. But there's carts tumbling down the order as they come through. It's Nicolas Pico, Valentino Fritsch is one of them, as is Robin Knudsen. So 3 or 4 drivers getting impeded there, unfortunately, with Simon Henrad not taking the start, I'm guessing from damage sustained in the previous race. And we've got a cart slowing at the very back of the field. I'm not entirely sure who that is, but we've got a cart right at the back end going quite slowly. That is the 313, I am told. So that is Rafael Villagomez, the Mexican. But Joe Turney leads the way in front of Mark Kimber, then Joey Van Splinteren in 3rd. 4th is the 330 of Javier Hansheim, and 5th is Matilda Olsen. And these 5 have broken well clear. In 6th place it is now Manav Hijawi. Then it's Hans Morin, another good start from the Swede. So he's up to 7th place. Then comes Niels Kuhlen, Leonardo Calioni, Romain Leroux, Pico, Bear, Harainen, Liedmar, Bunshu, Moya, Curl, Masaru and Fritsch. So problems, unfortunately, for Rafael Villagomez. Rashid Ghanem lost a lot of time on that last lap as well, dropping him down to 21st position once the concertina effect had evened itself out. Looks like Harry Barlow's made up a few places already. Lena Buehler's lost a few, so she was one of the drivers who got impeded in that first couple of laps of squabble. But Joey Van Splinteren is starting to make the run up towards Mark Kimber now. Joe Turney very much asserting his authority at the front of the Senior X30 field here. He makes his challenge to come forward, and this is going very well indeed as they come down the drop into the final hairpin. And Joe Turney leads the way from Kimber. Then it's Van Splinteren, Hansheim, Olsen. The 5 of them have broken well clear of the rest. So things are going very well. But in 6th place, Manav Hijawi's got a battle of his own to try and keep Hans Morin, the other super Swede, in the top 10 back. And Niels Kuhlen, Leonardo Calioni and Romain Leroux in the top 10 as well. But it's Joe Turney in the lead of the race. Second, Kimber. Third, Van Splinteren. Fourth is still Javier Hansen, the Belgian. And Matilda Olsen, the Swede, is there in fifth position. The top five have broken clear. There's contact further back. Oh, and one car goes flying in the air there. Goodness me. And somehow lands on all four wheels and keeps going. That was the 2:15 of Toni Harainen. Got airborne. Four wheels off the deck. Went a good 4 feet in the air. And the two that are left at the scene of the accident, that is the 3:39, I think. Oh, no, sorry. That is... We've got two karts off at the far side of the circuit. But how on earth is Toni Harainen still going? Well, the karts involved in the incident. Just trying to train my binoculars. One of them is the 3:28, I think it is. So that is Leonardo Caglioni, and the other one involved, rather sadly, is Hans Morin. So Hans Morin, who had fought his way further forward and was looking good for a top six finish. What a shame for Hans Morin, who was having an absolutely brilliant race up until that point. But Toni Harainen had nowhere to go, clattered into the side of their karts, put four wheels up in the air, and somehow is still going. Now, where is Toni Harainen? He is still in the mix of the battle, actually. So Toni Harainen is still racing. Where is he at the moment? He's in 13th position, would you believe? So Toni Harainen has got away with murder on that one. The top five are still well clear of the rest, as Javier Hansen starts to get the attack on to Joey Van Splinteren once again. Matilda Olsen in fifth, sixth position, still Manafijawi, but he's now got a lot of gap between himself and the seventh place man, who is now Nicolas Pico in front of Romain Leroux. And then in ninth position behind that is Nicolas Bayart. Into the top 10 has come the Swiss driver Danny Bunshu, and then it is Liedmar, Curl up to 12th, Harainen, Fritsch, Moya, Masaru up to 16th place. And then it is Ganem, Ushijima, Ruvers, De Grand, Bueller and Barlow in 22nd. What an astonishing race this is turning out to be, as the top five have broken well clear of Manafijawi, who is looking likely to remain in sixth position for the moment at least, as we complete the half distance mark. 6 done, 6 to go. And here comes Joe Turney making his bid to get back past Mark Kimber, who has taken the lead away from him. So Kimber is back in the lead. They have swapped positions once more. So Kimber into the lead, Joe Turney in second, and I would not be too surprised if they start to really jostle for position. Van Splinteren is quite close though, leading Hansen and Olsen to the slaughter as well. And this battle is going to get quite hectic between these five as they continue on with it. But Kimber is the race leader once again. Joe Turney in second position. Is he going to try for the move? Not here. Still a good battle to come. Tough to know which direction to look in here, and I'm going to miss something no matter where I look, because there's going to be great racing to watch all the way around this circuit. But out in front it is still our top five, nose to tail. It's imminent that we're going to get a move from one of them, as Joe Turney gets back onto the tail of Mark Kimber once again. They coast through that first right-hand flick, and there's a mechanical flag, and it's gone to Lena Bueller. That's a shame. After a great first race, it looks to me as though Lena Bueller unfortunately is going to be out of the race after receiving the mechanical flag for some damage in an incident earlier on, and that is a real shame. So we've lost several drivers now, of course. We've lost Niels Kuhlen. He's retired from the race as well. I wonder if he was also involved in that little shunt with the likes of Morin, Knudsen, Morin, Caglioni and Harainen. Harainen getting away with it, but Niels Kuhlen out of the race. And now it looks to me as though sadly Lena Bueller is going to be called into the pits to fix the damage, and in karting of course that is game over, and she has pulled into the pits. She saw the mechanical flag straight away. So now Joe Turney on the back of Mark Kimber once again, as Olsen is trying to make a move to come through into fourth position on Javier Hansen. 4 laps to go, and the 2:33 is being given a black flag. Oh, that is Lena Bueller. So black flag unfortunately for Lena Bueller, the 2:33, and that's a real shame. She is there in 24th position. She has ignored the mechanical flag. I think basically her tactic at the moment is just stay out there and see where she would have finished, but that's not really the best way of going about it. So unfortunately Lena Bueller is being black flagged for mechanical problems, and I think that she is now actually out of the race. She has pulled the kart off the racing line. So there come the drivers through, the leaders. Joe Turney having another crack at Mark Kimber. Joey Van Splinteren's got a bit of a gap now between himself and Javier Hansen, with Matilda Olsen still there in fifth position. Looking to be a good, strong weekend for these five. But is there going to be another change of positions in the lead of the race as Mark Kimber hangs on in front of Joe Turney? 6th is Hijawi, 7th is Pico from Leroux, Bayard, Bunshu, Danny Curl up to 11th past Sim Liedmar now, with Valentino Fritsch, Ruben Moyer and Rashid Ghanem next up in line. Tony Harainen still in 16th despite his airborne excursion. So they come off the hairpin, and still the leaders are close together, nose to tail. At the end of this lap, we'll have just 2 to go. Will Joe Turney make his move for Mark Kimber, or will he settle for a second place finish? Very tough to tell. Joe Turney is a fighter, and he'll want to start ahead of Mark Kimber if he possibly can. So to go for the victory, he will be pushing it. 2 to go as they go into the first corner once again through the right-hander, and then up towards the hairpin. Really good racing between these two Brits up front, Kimber and Turney. They have both won each of their heats. Only one of them can get the victory in this one. So who is going to be the one to get there? And if they do clatter into each other, there's always Joey van Spunteren in 3rd position as Turney takes a wide berth over the curb to try and get a little bit more momentum onto Kimber, and he's definitely closer to him under braking. He decides not to go for the move in the end. But as they come through up towards the hairpin this time by, it's going to be a very exciting tussle between Mark Kimber and Joe Turney on the last lap. Joe just keeping a quick look over his shoulder to see where Joey van Spunteren is, and you can see he's a few kart lengths back. Meanwhile, Manef Hijawi is actually losing time to the man in 7th place, Nicolas Pico, as we go into the final lap. Joe Turney might get an opportunity to come past Kimber. Into the right-hander. Kimber defending as they go through the left and holding that inside line very firmly shut, and this could be a chance for Turney as Kimber is defending like mad on this last lap. Joey van Spunteren is getting a chance to close up. He could steal a 2nd place finish here, or even a victory if they lose too much time. Meanwhile, Matilda Olsen is swarming around behind Xavier Hansen behind this as well, as Kimber is absolutely glued to the inside line. Keep an eye on Joey van Spunteren in 3rd. He may get an opportunity here as Kimber is again defending Turney. Van Spunteren's going to get a chance on Turney. They're going to go side by side. And Turney just about manages to keep Van Spunteren at bay, although Joey tries to commit to it. That was close, but Kimber's going to get the win from Joe Turney and Joey van Spunteren. Hansheim and Olsen are 4th and 5th. Wow, that was close. That's about as near a miss to a big incident as you're ever going to get in Senior X30. My goodness me, that was tight. But Mark Kimber beats Joe Turney to the flag, and that makes it 2 wins out of 2 for Mark Kimber. A 1st and a 2nd for Joe Turney so far. And Joey van Spunteren in 3rd position in front of Xavier Hansheim and Matilda Olsen. But Mark Kimber is your race winner. And that really does set things up for a very interesting second half to his weekend. So Kimber gets the victory from Joe Turney in 2nd place. Joey van Spunteren, the Dutchman, is 3rd from Xavier Hansheim and Matilda Olsen. Manef Hijawi comes home in 6th place from Nicolas Pico and Romain Leroux. Danny Curl is 9th. And Danny Bunshu in 10th place from Nicolas Bayard and Valentino Fritsch, climbing back well to 12th place. Sim Liedmar recovers to 13th from a very hard-charging Rashid Ghanem and Ruben Moyer. Marcel Maseru up to 16th in the end from Tony Harainen, Noah Ruvers, Thanapong Satumnu and Risha Jajima. Then it is Sebastian Degrand and Gustav Brandin from Rafael Villagomez and Rufus Hunt, Manel Galoplatone and Harry Barlow struggling there to 26th. And then we have a whole host of retirements led by Robin Knudsen, Lena Buehler, Niels Kuhlen, Hans Morin, Leonardo Caglioni and Simon Henrard. A very dramatic race then, unfortunately, and from the driver's point of view, for all the wrong reasons for those who have ended up retiring from the race. So a really exciting battle in the Senior X30 Heat A and C. We're about to find out what happens in qualifying Heat B and D for the drivers in that particular group. But it just keeps getting more and more interesting this race weekend here at Wackersdorf. X30 Senior qualifying Heat B and D is the next one to come up, and we're going to see another race winner in Sean Butcher, who has obviously had a very good run in his previous race. So the Australian Sean Butcher is hoping to have another strong run, but Jordan Brown-Nutley alongside him. Sean Butcher, of course, getting clear air and taking the victory earlier on. And my apologies, yes, it was Sean Butcher who got the win earlier on. I'm getting confused. There's so many great action-packed incidents over the course of the day. I had neglected to remind myself that Sean Butcher had beaten Mark Kimber to the flag in the earlier race. So Kimber taking a victory. and Sean Butcher has obviously taken one as well. So we've had 3 different winners over the course of the heats as it happens thus far. Apologies to all those of you who said, no, what on earth are you talking about? Sean Butcher was a race winner earlier on, of course, because we had Butcher and Turney earlier on, and now Mark Kimber becoming the 3rd different winner. Is there going to be a 4th different winner? Well, not if you're Sean Butcher. He's going to make sure that he continues at the sharp end of the field and wants to remain in position. But alongside him on the grid is a man who certainly knows how to get a victory. Jordan Brown-Nutley there on the front row of the starting grid could well be a hot contender to take the Senior X30 victory in this particular heat as he lines up there on the front row of the grid alongside Sean Butcher. Then it is the Belgian Rens van Pelt, and alongside him is the current championship leader, Clayton Ravenscroft, who leads by 11 points in the championship fight. Consistency has definitely kept him in play after that brilliant performance at Salbris, and of course taking the podium finish at Marienborg. So Clayton Ravenscroft in the lead of the championship on the 2nd row. But Morgan Porter and Dan Steenman are on the 3rd row of the grid in behind him. Then it is Danny Caranini, the Italian, and the Swede Isaac Valtonen on the 4th row of the grid. And rounding out the top 10, it is the Danish driver Daniel Trager, and alongside him is the Finn Levi Lintukanto. And then we have Owen Byatt and Eduardo Cosseteng sharing the 6th row of the grid from Jonas Visa and Angus Mulsdale on the 7th row. Then it is Philip Vava and Umberto Altea. Then alongside on the 9th row of the grid, we have the 2 Dutchmen, Rivaldo van der Westerleken and Kevin Stehauer. Then it's Janne Guvarts, the Belgian, alongside the German Lucky Treffs. Steven Planchamp of Switzerland lines up beside the Singaporean Jaden Jin. Damiano Marquesan, the Italian, is alongside the German Patrick Diegenbeck. And then we have Tom Nelissen, the Belgian, alongside the Dutchman Henke Kalteren. Michel Bernsman, the German, is alongside Patrick Rundqvist of Sweden. And then we have the Jordanian racer Ali Ikaby alongside the Brit Jack Tomalin. And then it's the Hong Kong racer Boris Jung, who lines up 16th on the grid. On the 16th row of the grid, I should say. And that's 31st position. Now, how this is going to play out is another interesting factor, because Sean Butcher has obviously taken a race victory. The Australian, who resides these days in London in the UK, has obviously had a very exciting start to his weekend, and there's plenty of great action to come from Sean Butcher in his current form. Now, we're just looking at the karts that have been returned back to the pit lane after their earlier incident. That's the remains of Hans Morin and the kart that went with him in that incident, Leonardo Caglioni. I'm still baffled as to how on earth Tony Harainen could have 4 wheels fly off the deck. He was basically diagonal in the air as he took flight, landed rather awkwardly on 4 wheels, and somehow was still able to motor on and finish in the top 20. That's absolutely baffling. But hey, he did a grand job and full recovery despite that incident. He probably would have thought at the time, well, that's it, game over. Put his foot on the throttle, found that everything still worked, and went, no, it isn't. I'll get on with it then. But the Mick Barrett Racing driver, Sean Butcher, lining up on pole position for this one. And it's going to be a very entertaining race for him as he looks to add to his tally so far this weekend, having taken a victory in the previous race and now looking to do likewise in the second. But Jordan Brown-Nutley alongside him on that front row of the grid has other ideas, and will obviously have his own designs on a race victory this weekend, certainly here in this particular heat. Now that looks to be the Scottish racer, Angus Mulsdale, just getting himself into position there on the 7th row of the grid. Angus Mulsdale, a former junior world champion, of course, so now he wants to get himself into a winning position in the X30 European Series at senior X30 level. Such a tough discipline this, because there's so many good drivers. This weekend alone we have 63 competitors bidding for 34 places on the starting grid. Only the first 28 of those will be confirmed today, and then all the other drivers will basically be given a second chance heat tomorrow. The first 6 drivers across the line